sometimes that level of stress and anxiety and busyness of life can be so much that maybe you can't do that. Looking around and you get nothing but blank space. That might require you to journal some questions.
Yeah.
What is the good? There's always something good. Pull it out.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. Last couple of weeks, we've had amazing guests, and we're taking a little pit stop before we ramp up with our next three guests, but figure we'll recap looking back and then looking forward to what we have in store.
Yeah, so I do a good job of remembering all the things, well, most of the things we talked about, but who was on the last 2 weeks? I know Colby was last week, and then the week before was that Brad. Is that who was 2 weeks ago?
Yep, Brad Blankenship. So it was a cool opportunity to look backwards at a body of work and what he looks forward to in retirement. And the one that I've talked the most about since his episode was the mistakes, man. And that's what I was anticipating, just the recording. Like, what do you wish you would have done? Like, looking back, where can you get better? Because I'm hoping that it can activate people like us still in our stride to change now rather than wait 20 more years, 30 more years.
Well, for sure. Well, I interrupted. Go ahead. Finish your thought, and then I had a thought.
Well, the Thanking Mentors one was my absolute gun punch, and it was something that I've been walking through. It is my season right now of like some of the people that were adversaries for only because of my ego and stubbornness, and flipping that around in recent years, because when you really reflect, you didn't get here on your own. And there's people that you easily thank, like parents, family, relatives, direct relationships, peer groups, all that sort of things. But what about former coworkers, former leaders that might be your competitor today?
Yeah.
And I bet there's certain individuals in that lane that you might not have talked to that absolutely change your trajectory.
Yeah, I got on the way home yesterday, found myself thinking through that idea, and I didn't make it past high school, but it was like just running through on the way home, thinking like who along the way, because I remember Colby talking about a teacher, I think in high school, I think it was, heck, it might have been junior high, that was on her like list that you gave her homework to reach back out to. But just my own self reflecting back through some of those, who is it? Who do I need to reach out to? Like I said, I only made it through high school, but definitely thinking about that. Here's another idea: is there are probably people that influence that, maybe not in a great way either, right? But you learn something there, and so I've had that thought too over the last couple of weeks: is what have I learned through not great times? What have I learned through challenges and strife and stuff like that? And what I was going to say just a second ago was part of the sharing the stories and paying it forward and all that. I mean, we were doing a touch of before we even started recording, just talking about some things that are going on and ideas and stuff we've learned, and just sharing all those ideas, all in the interest of, paying it forward, I guess paying it sideways as the case may be, or just keeping friends, colleagues, coworkers out of the same traps and pitfalls, whether it's, home, work, family, operations, finances, whatever the case may be. And there are lessons learned every day that I think you and I and in our peer group do a good job of sharing. But man, that is part of what the podcast has done a really good job of, is thinking through lessons learned things and sharing forward, helping people avoid those ditches and whatnot. So
yeah, and that's the power with Colby's, of her sharing her testimony and being vulnerable and opening up. And you can see it with I don't pay much attention to it, but the metrics where that by the numbers, it's resonating with people. They probably don't see it coming with the story and the build up to the testimony. But if they make it to the testimony portion, that's what hits home. And your story might not be similar to hers, but you have a story, right? You have brokenness, you have shame in your life. You have that one thing that keeps nagging you in the back of your mind that you're afraid to share with others because you're in fear of being ridiculed, outcasted, judged, all that sort of stuff. But there's people, whether they're in your inner circle or professionals or your pastor, like there's people you can share, because that's a mighty weight that you're holding on to. And that's the challenge that we want to leave here. go back if you haven't already. Listen to that, especially the second half of Colby's episode where she opens up about her testimony and the power of sharing and reducing that weight of shame that you carry when you don't share your story. And it's there's a lot of self-healing with it, but there's a lot of impact you can also make on the people you share it with.
Yeah.
And when you tie that into leadership, when you're trying to lead others, when you can compassionately share, like, this is how I failed and this is why I want to pass this down to you, leadership of your family, leadership of a company, leadership of your team, you're not just doing it from like, I have it all together. It's like, no. From brokenness, I was able to get here, and I want to help accelerate your learning curve and see these blind spots in front of you. But that doesn't come without a level of getting over that shame or passing that shame up and being vulnerable.
Yeah, it was a little nugget, an unspoken nugget, I guess, probably. If you look back in the episode notes for Colby, I actually dropped a link completely unrelated to what we talked about, but I dropped a link in the sort of show notes there that was an article from John Piper on the power of your personal testimony. And he walks through and talks, it's like an old podcast from 2021, basically, but in the transcript, he walks through, certain passages through scripture where people are talking about their testimonies and sharing the things that they've been through, all for the same purposes and reasons that I think we've, not on accident, but have landed here is, teaching, paying forward, demonstrating, seeking relief from, etc., those things. And so if you haven't had a chance to read through that, click back over to the show notes and hit that thing. It's like I'm looking here. It's a 15-minute listen from John Piper and a 5-minute read if you're a Buzzsaw reader, but all to those exact same points, kind of bringing them to a head through some scripture references and through some Bible related backup for the ideas that sharing your testimony is freeing and powerful for you and for others. So
100%. Super proud of her for coming on, sharing that. I know it's a big deal. I know it's a hard thing to do, but it only gets easier over time with the reps. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if we're going to move on or not, but I'm going to pause on a point you had made here, which was to find somebody, right? Like the people who have shared things with us, we're not the first time, right? You don't hop on for the first time and jam a microphone in your face and you tell your story. It happened with a buddy first. It happened with a professional. There's folks that are in the safe spaces of your community groups at church or your super homies or a professional provider of services to like lean in and be able to start processing and unpacking that story so that you can tell it more freely. So start small. You don't need to start large. You don't need to grab the mic on a Sunday morning, but start small and find somebody to just begin the process of processing, because keeping that trapped in there is no good, man.
No doubt. And so looking forward, we have our good friend Gerald coming on next week. Gerald Nichols with Amber Electric. He's on the Texo board, big part of CEF. Workforce development is his crusade, man. He's so passionate about that. And he has a great story, and he's a great leader that is standing on the shoulder of giants. That's something that he commonly says. And but he's also willing to not just lift up the generations behind him, but also listen and learn from them. So he's learning both ways. He's in rare air with his mentality and his leadership style and the willingness to be hungry and learn late into his career. And he's just an awesome friend, awesome dude. And I can't wait to get him on.
Yeah, he's the thing that you said it, I'm going to double down on it, but one of the things I think Gerald does an amazing job of is listening down, right? Like to say, what are we doing wrong and how do we do it better? There is no, at least in my experience with Gerald, there is no, this is how we've always done it, which is sort of a pet peeve to me. It's tell me how we should be doing it. How do we always iterate better? Listening, asking great questions everywhere he can, all in the pursuit of being better. And so I'm looking forward to pulling some of that information out of him and sharing that, letting him share all that with you. And I don't know if did you say it here yet? I don't know if you did or not, that he was the connect to Ollie. That was just such a great episode. That was his connect, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, Shane's become quickly a great friend of mine. We're planning on getting the families together soon. And I actually ran into him on Sunday. I was at the Waxahachie High School, not the stadium where they practice, but the football field, because Quinn's cheerleading now. and I was wearing the hat he gave me for speaking to his team. And I was like, hey man, recruiting the future generation. And I sat back down in my rocking chair, which make sure I scroll to that rocking chair.
Okay.
The literal rocking chair, not the rocking chair moments we talk about here. But 5 minutes later, I'm watching Quinn do cheerleading, and he just walks right up to me. He's like, what's up, man? And I'm like, oh, dude, this is awesome. So him and I had like a 30, 45-minute conversation because he was running the facility as all these whippersnappers were running around chaos.
Yeah.
Just a solid dude. His story's crazy, crazy impactful. And we were going down that rabbit trail again on this past Sunday. It was awesome.
Well, and part of the growing Corsicana crew, Colby gave him a shout out last week, but apparently everyone, it's just a sub niche for us as homies from Corsicana, right? So there you go. All right. So Gerald coming soon. I think we've talked about Vanessa and Scott coming soon. I think we gave those was the book giveaways? Was that last week?
Ongoing. So
Okay.
They're all out. They're all assigned and out. Some have already received them. Others, it's on their way. So yeah, it's a great book. We're trying to get them in blended families' hands that are also followers, and that because that's our ministry, Blended Kingdom Families, right here in DFW. So can't wait to get them on. We're gonna have to tweak the studio a bit to have 4 of us. That'll be the first time it's 4, and the first time we have a couple together. So it'll be cool.
Cool. And then you hit me up this week and said, hey, I got a new guest. And so lay this one on me. I don't know that we've talked about it specifically, so we'll do it live, but, coming soon from a meeting from this week. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple interactions with him. Brian Custer with McCarthy. He recently moved here from Arizona. He's the president of the southern region for McCarthy, and just solid dude, salt of the earth, great leadership principles. Just a great overall person. And it's one of those, every conversation you have with him, you just keep going and going and get pumped up. So it's going to be an awesome testimony. It's going to be awesome to hear his insights of his 17-year climb through McCarthy from PE to president. That's kind of rare these days to see that vertical climb on one ladder. But awesome dude. You're going to love him. We'll get him on next month.
Yeah. All right. Couple of just quick hit topics, I think, too. We've laid down for today. I'll flip it to you because you usually get us talking on topics as we begin riffing around on something. But just looking around, that's the idea. The power of just looking around. What are you riffing on that these days?
Yeah, and I'm smiling right now because as I'm doing that, you could probably see my left hand. I'm petting one of our dogs that's looking for loving, and that's what actually sparked this whole thing for me. Because we talk about the power of small moments that make a monumental impact. Chris Cassidy is a highlight feature of that. Those people and mentors that change your trajectory, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
I'm talking about the simple moments in daily life. And that was sparked from this morning watching. So I take my daughter to school some days when I'm not starting in a client's office in the morning. If I'm working from home, I'll take Quinn to school. And on the ride home, as soon as I drop Quinn off, I typically have our sheepadoodle Pippa, and I open the window and, man,
loves it.
Loving life. And so when I stop thinking and just look at her and she's just enjoying life, it just brings a smile. And then started doing that with Quinn, just watching her imagine life out the back window. And at stoplights, of course, I'm not driving while just staring in the back seat, but those small moments really break up the stress and anxiety of a day if we're paying attention to them. And they're all around us. If you don't have a dog or a kiddo, like I just did it this morning, I had some worship music on. I just looked outside and just cleared my brain for a hot minute, and it really changed my attitude. The big ones that I have are when I do that with worship music and I do cardio. So Wednesday's my cardio day and I go hard and I'm listening to worship music. And if I really start dialing in, I start thinking about things and get emotional, man. And those opportunities are all around us. We just have to keep our eyes and our ears open. And so many people are talking about how busy they are. And
everybody's so busy, yeah.
But don't let that be your knee-jerk mentality and mindset. Don't let that be your answer to how are you doing today. Use the looking around to try and shift that mindset, But maybe you got to be more intentional with looking around, and maybe it's going to be a little more difficult. Maybe there's an old friend you can catch up with. Maybe, like I said, worship music, something. It's around you. Just pay attention, and life might get just a little bit better for you in the stress and chaos of your calendar and schedule if you just look around.
I know this is probably 3 or 4 times in a row that I've gone back to the Daily Dad, but did you read it this morning? Because I had no idea what you were about to say, but as you were saying it, I clicked over to my email and pulled it back up, because for that today was sort of on topic, but I'll give it a little tweak from the Daily Dad, which was talking about melting away negative feelings. Like you show up frustrated about something or whatever, how do you melt those away? And the gist of it is like he sets up a lot of things that like frustrate everybody. You're stressed, you're busy, your house is a mess, you can't watch the news without being frustrated. And what do you do about that? And then long pregnant pause, ... Go spend time with your kids. Seriously, he says 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. The feelings just those frustrations begin to just melt away, not because you've ignored those frustrations, but because it gives you perspective. And really that's kind of not exactly the point you're making, but at least tangent to the point you're making, which was like having some perspective, looking at a kiddo leaning out the back window, or being reframed with worship music, or taking in like the magnitude of outside, also has a tendency to like give you perspective on whatever the frustrations du jour are, so that you can reframe, reset, and reload. And so it's an interesting parallel between that and what has become a fairly common daily read today for Daily Dad, is those two things. Like just take a beat. Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's going outside, maybe something. Take a beat, let that melt away, and refocus on like perspective on all of it. So that's it.
Yeah, and sometimes that level of stress and anxiety and busyness of life can be so much that maybe you can't do that. Looking around and you get nothing but blank space. That might require you to journal some questions.
Yeah.
What is the good? The bad are at your prefrontal cortex, right? They're right there. What's back there? What's good? There's always something good. Pull it out. Journal. Write it down. Where are the blessings? Where can you be a blessing? What are the cans instead of can-nots? It's another common thread with our mindset shift. You might, if looking around is failing, you got to dig in more, not abandon it. Dig in more.
Yeah.
Get a pen out. Get into prayer. Where can you set your mind? And then if you do that, the reverse of it, the looking around things might surface like you put on some contact lenses for your life. It's worth your time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I know I feel like sometimes we revert back and talk to and linger on some of the same things. And when you were talking about writing them down, I wanted to just start talking about journaling again, because that's been so valuable to me. Recently, reflectively, et cetera. And I won't triple down on it other than to just say we talk a lot about mindset, not because it's the only thing we talk about, but just because I think it's so important. I mean, I had that mindset conversation with William in the car around, drum roll, please, basketball, but like just resetting some of the things in your mind that are defaults helps around a lot of stuff. Here in this instance, same verse, different song, same song, different verse. Resetting your mindset around that is insanely helpful.
For sure, man.
All right. I think it looks like you got a shout out in order here. Is that where I see a shout out that I will not try to steal the thunder on? You want to give a shout out?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to take credit for this. It's just something that I saw that I turned into a daily motivation. And it's been something I've been reflecting on a lot lately and using as a coaching tool as well. But Tony Casagrande with Campos Engineering, he's also on the Texo board. His personality is freaking awesome. I love his personality on the board. He's a great contributor. But he put this post out on LinkedIn. It was an awesome write-up. But there was a quote within the write-up that says, when you play for the name on the front of your jersey, people will remember the name on the back of your jersey. And I think that's a pretty profound statement. I know you're going to hit us with a basketball reference on that.
No, why? Would I say what? Well, I don't understand. Why does that relate to basketball
right.
at all?
Oh, it's churning. I know it's going to be MJ, maybe Kobe, something's coming. I know it. But it's good. Are you playing for yourself or for others? Like all of us are a part of some team. It might be our family. It might be our company. It might be the peer group that you're in, but like, are you always focused on you? Is it a me thing? Or are you focused on the people around you? Are you building up the people around you? Are you putting in those reps so then you can be lifted up? And I think about that in a couple different ways. The first is like the whole, the go-giver has been a big concept, like the clear difference between being a giver and a taker. The taker is focused on the back of the jersey. Check me out.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Do something for me.
Let's all talk about me. Let's focus on me. Giver is like, I'm going to contribute to the team. I'm going to give my talents to make sure that we're rowing this boat in the same direction. And that's your friendships, relationships. What side of that fence do you sit on? And there's nothing wrong with like taking when it comes to like, hey, I need advice, like that sort of thing. I'm not trying to say like you shouldn't do that, but just make sure that there's some balance. And if you do a personal inventory and you see like, man, I feel like a taker, like do something about it.
Yeah.
Bless somebody.
I don't
be a team player.
I don't personally know Tony, but as you were saying that, I thought I'm going to go try to find the post. It might not have been on LinkedIn. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he said. I'm going to go try to find it and like assess and read and cross-reference through what we're talking about. And then I immediately realized why you said his energy is great. Do you know what his picture is on LinkedIn, on his little tiny picture?
I know it's something goofy, like Flash Gordon or something.
No, it's like it's a Karate Kid. He has on a Cobra Kai. I think they call it gi. Is that the right word? With like a wig. He's supposed to look like I can't. His name escapes me right now. The bad guy, as it would be in Karate Kid. Anyway, so it's like right in your wheelhouse of costuming. Which
for sure,
that starts to come together. Yeah, I will not pass up an opportunity to make a basketball reference here. Only to say like the front of your jersey, back of the jersey thing. If you watch enough basketball, you will see like that physically playing out on the floor, right? Among really great players. And sometimes you see it when they hit big shots and it's a little bit like in your face about it. But this deal where they're like hook their thumbs under the front of their jersey. Do you know what I'm talking about? They'll hook their front in the front and like protrude or push out to demonstrate that like the activity was done on behalf of the name on the front. And it's a little bit probably disingenuous because it's usually on the heels of hitting a game winner. But you see that a lot. And also you see a lot of like, in fact, I saw Russell Westbrook do it this week in the playoffs. He hit a big shot. It was a big and one, and he actually grabbed the right side of his jersey. Have you seen this? And like pulled it back, and it's exposed. I think it was his undershirt, and then starts like pointing at his heart. Have you seen that too? So there's lots of like self-aggrandizing, yet also pointing to the front of your jersey stuff that goes on in the league. But yeah, it's common. You also see, and I think Texas Tech did it last year. There is no name on the back of the jersey. I don't know if you've been seeing that as a common basketball theme lately as well.
No, and that makes me think about like the business parallel of those companies that decide not to put titles on their people or email signatures.
Right.
And I think it's because they want to focus on the name on the front. Like your title should be irrelevant, right? Like we're all in this ship together trying to get to a destination.
Yeah.
And to put a final staple on the basketball thing, I've never seen Michael Jordan put a crown on top of his own head after he hits a shot.
No.
But I know some others that compare him that do regularly.
That shot is intended to be directly at someone that I won't specifically name.
Yeah, because he's listening.
Yeah.
He's
a
regular listener.
I don't need LeBron.
He keeps asking to be a guest, and I'm like, back off, bro.
I don't need LeBron more mad at us than he already is. Yeah, I got lots of basketball talk on that, but neither here nor there. Well, that'll be a special episode one day. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know exactly where we spin out from there because I feel like I landed in a basketball hole, but focusing on the things you can control. That's another note under this sub point, but I'll try to pivot us in there. It's just like you can control pulling for your teammates. You can control pulling for the folks in your office, on your project team, whatever. You can do that. You can control your attitude, your effort, etc. to just focus on being the best version of a teammate you can be. And I was thinking about teammate roles yesterday on the way home from practice. Is like sometimes being that teammate means like and I'll continue the analogy, but I might not be the best rebounder. That might not be what I am known for on this team, but tonight you need a rebounder. And so sometimes being the best teammate means taking what is something that we all need that might not be what you're the best at, or it might not be what you're known for, and leaning into doing something to help someone else as well, in particular instances. So I don't know if that analogy completely works all the way through, but it's definitely leans into like the controlling the controllable sort of a thing.
Yeah, and the business parallel, like if you're trying to climb the ladder and your goal is to get a promotion, like that outcome, like that's not in your control. You don't get to make that decision to promote yourself. That's on somebody else's shoulders. So the analogy here is like, if you want, like, reverse engineer that quote. If you're looking for people to look at the back of your jersey, how do you get there? And it's not look at the back of my jersey demanding you need this. Maybe that works sometimes, but that's a bit shallow. It's how do I become a team player and a leader that people want to follow?
Yeah.
Well, what are the steps there? So like, there's a good umbrella goal to work backwards from. Like, okay, I want to be somebody that people look up to, and that people look for mentorship, and that they see me as a great leader. Okay, what are those characteristics? I show up for them. I'm proactive. I'm vulnerable. I'm high energy, high octane, proactive. Like whatever that list is, you could start categorizing those things, and maybe the outcome becomes that promotion, aka seeing the name on the back of the jersey. Reverse engineer that flow a bit.
Yeah, right. All right. We've reached the end, I believe, unless you got some other stuff to think about or chew on or riff on for the day. I think we kind of, our episodes when it's just the two of us run a little shorter. I think that's probably in order, since as of late, the ones when we have guests have run a little longer.
Oh, for sure.
On average, I think us together being shorter works out best for listeners, and balances against I think the last two have been a total of 340, something like this. So there's a lot of content out there for other folks, and I think rightfully so, because the whole gist of this thing is focusing on others and getting other people's stories out, and in the interim, just you and I riffing on a few things. So
for sure, man, that was the Blitz, and the next 3 or so weeks will be action packed for sure.
All right, dude. Sounds great. I will see Kev. I'll see you around. And for you listeners out there, y'all stay out there. Keep moving mountains.